The road of redemption for Vasily Lomachenko made a pit stop on Saturday night at the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden. Lomachenko handily beat the former IBF lightweight champion Richard Comey by unanimous decision in a dominating performance. Following Saturday's fight, it is safe to say stories of Lomachenko's decline were greatly exaggerated. What'd you think of the Matrix, Ak?
Well, first off, I mean, who the hell was talking about him declining if you saw the second?
Let me say why I said that. Immediately after he lost to Teofimo, what happened? All of a sudden, the four kings emerged, right. And there was no more mention of Lomachenko. And I just kept saying, why are we not saying there's 5 guys in the lightweight division?
No, of course. I mean, a lot of people were talking about the four kings and not mentioning him. As far as his ability, I mean, we all saw what happened in the second half of that Lopez fight. I mean, the guy is still Lomachenko. And another thing, Barack, I mean, look, no disrespect to Richard Comey, you know, tough as nails. Good fighter, solid fighter, tough competitor. But it's not like this was what we thought before Loma was going to fight Rigondeaux, or, you know, this wasn't a Tank Davis-Lomachenko fight. Isn't this what we expected? We expected the superior boxer in Lomachenko to outbox Richard Comey. The one thing I enjoyed and I saw was this, I don't know, burning desire to hurt a guy, to stop a guy in Lomachenko, and at the same time, having some compassion for him in the fight. But Lomachenko looked as good as ever, but I expected that. I told you walking into the Garden before that fight, I said, Loma's gonna be typical Loma tonight against Comey, who's a tough fighter, but is not on that level. So I'm excited about what's to come in the lightweight division if these fights can be made, because obviously Lomachenko wants to fight all of them.
You told me that walking into the Garden. I don't know. I was there like 4 hours before you. What are you talking about? But when you called me and told me that, I don't remember that. But yes, you're right. Come on, man. I'm not arguing that. But expectations or not, after a loss, there's a building process, no matter what. You have to remind us that you are the guy that you were before the loss. And especially if in that loss, you barely threw punches for 4 or 5 rounds. You know, so Nakatani win showed us Loma was back. This win right here was a very solid win, a total domination. Maybe you can give him the first round to Comey, but it was a total domination. Even hurt Comey, even dropped Comey. Do you remember that round when he hurt Comey and he said, "Okay, you can go." It was like 4 seconds left because you heard the 10-second clap, and he said, "Okay, you can go back to your corner." You know, a little arrogant, you know, but that's
arrogant. That's not a little, but that's
Loma. That's Loma for you. That's that no mas Loma who's super confident in what he's doing. And yes, even though people expected that, you're dealing with Comey, who has a huge punch, so he always had a chance, but Loma neutralized it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even see Comey hurt Loma throughout that fight. He landed some solid body shots, and you could hear him from a mile away, but it didn't budge Loma. I mean, he was still in the pocket exchanging with a big puncher like Comey, which, you know, it just shows you the type of fighter Lomachenko is. He's not only skills, you know, he's not only, he doesn't only have great footwork, he has a lot of heart, power, obviously, he's able to put guys down, but he's a dog as well. Lomachenko's a dog as well, and people need to understand that. So, you know, this just makes the lightweight division the most explosive division in boxing. Now, in terms of who is going to fight the Emperor, who likes to call himself, and that's George Kambosos, who is the unified champion. I mean, look, we saw Devin Haney, we saw Tank Davis, now Lomachenko. I mean, according to Kambosos, these guys are auditioning to fight him. I think.
Did he say that?
Yeah, I mean, in other words, he's been saying that. But listen, I mean, let the guy have his moment. He won the big fight, but he's gonna have to get prepared for any of those guys seriously, because they're looking at him as food and who has all of the belts. I don't care who Kambosos fights, Barack. Honestly, if we would love for Devin to get the fight with him, obviously, most likely to be here on Dazn. if he were to fight Tank Davis or Lomachenko, I think any of those fights are phenomenal.
I don't, man. Yeah, they're all phenomenal, but I think there should only be one fight for Kambosos. But this is how good boxing has been, that we've seen all of these fighters fight in the span of like 2 weeks, you know. But I think there's no other fight for Kambosos but Devin Haney.
Yeah.
That way, you got one champ, and then everybody fall in line. Fall in line and fight the champ, whoever that may be. And that's a wonderful division right there.
No, but Barack, just to touch on one last thing, I think what you're saying is you're spot on 100%. But in the meantime, let's not have guys wait like they've been waiting for Canelo Alvarez. Why don't we get a Tank and Devin fight? Why don't we get a Loma and Devin fight? A Loma and Tank fight? In the meantime, when Kambosos fights one of these dudes, there are plenty guys. You still have Jojo Diaz in the mix. There are a lot of lightweights. Let's fight each other. We're not gonna line up and wait for Kambosos. That's what I don't want to see in the division.
No, I feel you on that. I'm just saying we just need one champ so we can have no more disputing. But let's see how Gervonta Davis responds to Loma after Loma saying in one of those features that Gervonta's not a great fighter. Of course not, he says. You know what I mean? So I'd like to see the response, and maybe that'll lead to that Loma-Davis fight that we wanted to see, 5 years ago.
Bold. That is the best way to describe Conor Benn in and outside of the ring. Looking to make a statement against the veteran Chris Algieri, Conor Benn did just that with a vicious knockout in the 4th round. Many believe Algieri was to be Benn's toughest competition to date. However, the rising star of Conor Benn proved to be too much. And afterwards, when speaking to our own Eddie Adelipo, Benn kept that same energy.
No one ain't done that to Algieri. No one beat Granados as easy as I did. No one knocked out Vargas in 1 round. And I beat up Formella better than Porter. So it's like, well, what more do I have to do? What more do I have to do?
You want that respect, don't you? You're getting that respect.
I don't know, maybe it's just within myself. Maybe I just frustrate myself. I'm a top world level athlete. You don't get the rankings I've got for nothing. So, listen, I hope the Yanks now know that I'm the best fighter in Britain, #1, and #2, I'm coming for them.
I love his energy, Barack. Conor, we know him outside the ring. Hell of a guy. And he has a chip on his shoulder, and understandably so, because of living in the shadow of his father. But he's becoming his own man. And Barack, I always respect a young fighter who doesn't have to fight, who hasn't struggled his entire life and still puts that amount of work in the gym and is continuing to prove himself. So that's why I'm a Conor Benn fan. And I honestly, Barack, I think he looked a lot better. I'm talking about strategically, footwork, head movement, defense, leading up to that knockout. To me, he looked like a better all-around fighter. So every fight, I see progression, and I thought it was a hell of a knockout victory. What was your take?
First of all, nobody has to fight. You can grow up poor and you don't have to.
You know what the hell I mean.
You don't
Come
have
on.
to fight. No, I'm talking to these fighters too. Because you was poor didn't mean you had to fight. You know what I'm saying? I was poor and I chose to fight in martial arts tournaments and still be poor. You know what I'm saying?
So did I.
I didn't fight for money. You know what I'm saying?
I fought for trophies.
You don't have to fight. But yes, when you're rich, you really don't have to fight. There should be no desire. But I'd give him credit for that. But listen, there is no more Nigel Benn's shadow as far as I'm concerned. The man fought 3 times this year alone. We're still in this pandemic, The man fought 3 times and he fought 3 legitimate guys, Vargas, Granados, and Algieri. He's already a contender, no more shadow. He's proven himself. A lot of sons of greats haven't proven themselves, didn't get to this level. They don't get to this level undefeated and you're a contender, and now probably the next fight should be a championship fight. It's probably not going to be, but I'm just saying he's earned it.
And you know what, Barack, just to further touch on that, you think about guys like Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who eventually became world champion. But throughout his career, Barack, honestly, I didn't see progression in skill. I saw a tough guy who attacked and, had the right fights. But credit to him, he became world champion. He was a force to be reckoned with. But what I see in Benn is a young man who wants to get better every fight. He trains so hard in that gym to prepare for these fights. And I saw that. I saw the progress in this last fight. So I see a big, I think the young man has a lot of potential if he has that same approach.
I want to say about that Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Comment. I think that was brilliant what you just said. He's one of the guys that he didn't beat a champion to become champion, but he got that WBC strap. The difference with that is that they both had big last names. I felt like Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. had like a little more of a push towards that title. A little more of a push. I feel like, yes, Benn, because he has that last name, he has the backing of a big promoter, which is Matchroom, but he had to prove himself with fighting guys. And usually guys with big names like that don't necessarily have to prove themselves so early. He literally had to prove himself by fighting 3 times this year, 3 legitimate opponents, and that he has done. So yes, the big name gets you there, but your talent sustains you.
No doubt about it. And speaking of big names, Conor Benn called out a big name, a Yank from over here, who's a 4-division world champion. Take a listen.
People keep asking me what I want next, and the man I want next is Adrien Broner. So, I'll leave it with my team to try and make that fight happen. I'm sure my team will do everything possible to make that happen. They offered AB a lot of money around 6 months ago, and I'm sure they'll increase that offer, but that's the man I want next. So if we can make it happen in the States, let's have it, and if we can make it here in Britain at the O2 Arena, either one works for me. And I deal with him no problem.
Broner has put out a tweet or Instagram post, maybe about a week ago, saying that, hey, I'm coming back. Might be on Showtime, might be on Dazn.
Oh, really? He's gonna fight on the app? Remember that's what he said like a few years ago? He was like, I ain't fighting on no app.
Mm-hmm. Well, in any case, I like the fight. I think that, it's not the first time that Conor has called out Adrien Broner. He's a big name, a big draw, has a lot of accolades. I think it's a big test. I think Adrien Broner is still a very skilled fighter. So I would love to see that fight, and I actually hope they can make it happen.
Yeah, the only problem with that is that Broner has also said that in these recent tweets, he said 135 and 140, so I don't see him going up to 147. And now he has mentioned Conor Benn before. I think he said that he'd beat up Conor Benn too, but he's the kind of guy that, if we talk about him fighting anybody, he'll say, well, I'll F him up. We talk about Joshua and him fighting, he'll say, I'll F him up. That's the kind of guy that he is. I don't think it's in his best interest to fight at 147 no matter who he fights anyway. I think him at his height, his size, maybe he should campaign at 140 or 135. But I understand Conor Benn calling him out because with or without a belt, Adrien Broner is always a big name. He's already accomplished so much and he stays in the news, and he's a very, very good fighter.